Hello, good morning, and welcome to another exciting moment. We talk about business now. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Okem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at some of the biggest stories in the world of business. But we'll center our attention first on Indonesia's economy amid presidential election coming up, and we begin from there. As Indonesia's three presidential candidates gear up for the start of the official campaigning period beginning on Tuesday, they face the challenge of turning around a slow growth in Southeast Asia's largest economy. According to different reports, Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto, former Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan, and ex-Central Java Governor Ganjar Pranowo will face off on February 14th, to succeed President Joko Widodo, who is constitutionally barred from running after 2 terms in power. Indonesia's gross domestic product and its growth slowed to 4.94% in the third quarter compared with 5.72% during the same period in 2022, according to governmental data. Indonesia's economy grew 5.3% for the whole of 2022, the biggest expansion in 9 years, as the resource-rich country rode a global commodities boom. Economic experts say that maintaining GDP growth at above 5% will be essential to creating enough jobs for the 1 million plus Indonesians newly entering the workforce each year. Still on the foreign scene, looking at the Israel-Hamas war. A 4-day ceasefire in Gaza between Israel and Hamas will begin today, according to Qatari officials. It is a day later than originally announced, as negotiators worked out final details of the deal. The deal will lead to release of dozens of hostages held by militants and Palestinians imprisoned by Israel. Let's find out details regarding this.
Obviously, every day, the beginning of the pause will be 7 a.m. Friday, the 24th of November, and it will last, of course, as agreed, for 4 days. And the first batch of civilians to be released from Gaza will be around 4 p.m. of the same day. They will be 13 in number, all women and children, and those hostages who are from the same families will be put together within the same patch. Obviously, every day will include a number of civilians, as agreed, to total 50 within the 4 days. The criteria on which to prioritize the hostages was purely humanitarian, as you know, and our focus was on getting the women and children out of harm's way as soon as possible, which is basically what we are doing within this agreement. The need is so great in Gaza that no matter how much aid you are going to bring in, there will be certainly more need for aid, but we are hoping to bring in as much as possible within the confines of the deal. And of course, our aim is for this deal to...
In Africa, the International Air Transport Association says $1.68 billion of airline funds are trapped across Africa as of September 2023 out of a global total of $2.36 billion. The regional vice president for Africa and the Middle East, Camille Alawahi, disclosed this on Thursday during the African Airlines Association's 55th Annual General Assembly in Uganda. According to him, the development had negatively impacted the growth of foreign airlines in the continent. He said, operators have been in touch with the government on the continent to ensure the release of trapped funds. Still in Africa, the first shipment of Mosquirix malaria vaccines manufactured by the international pharmaceutical giant GSK plc was received by the Central African nation, Cameroon. Cameroon received 331,200 doses of the vaccines. This marked a historic moment as the first African nation to officially obtain the vaccine. However, feasibility studies on the viability of the vaccines have been carried out in Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi. The World Health Organization estimates that malaria claims the lives of nearly 500,000 children under 5 each year. Meanwhile, Cameroon's health minister, Manoda Malashi, said that 42 of 203 health districts in the nation will give the first shipment of vaccinations. That's the story around Cameroon and vaccination malaria vaccines in Kenya. On Thursday, President William Ruto of Kenya announced the government's intention to privatize 35 government-owned companies. The administration is also considering the privatization of another 100 firms following the recent enactment of the law aimed at reducing bureaucratic processes in the country. According to reports, the last instance of state privatization in Kenya occurred in 2008 when the government conducted an initial public offering, IPO, for 25% of the shares in the telecommunication company, Safaricom. In Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, is attempting to join the elusive BRICS club in order to become an influential force on the world's economic stage. According to Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, Nigeria hopes to join the group within 2 years. He also disclosed the country's intention to join other beneficial groups with good and well-defined intentions. The BRICS group, originally consisting of Brazil, Russia, India, China, has been aggressively pushing to change the order of the globe's economic structure. The group's primary intention is to dominate the global market by increasing its economic influence. The new members it added shortly after its annual summit in August include Saudi Arabia, Iran, Ethiopia, Egypt, Argentina, the United Arab Emirates, and Nigeria is looking to join this group. Still in Nigeria, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited (NNPCL) has declared that the importation of refined petroleum products into the country will end by December 2024. According to NNPCL's projection, the national oil firm would grow its revenue to 4.5 trillion naira at the end of 2023, adding that the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt refining company under NNPCL's management would be completed by December this year. The chief officer of the NNPCL, Malik Kyari, disclosed this when he led officials of the company to a meeting with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, on Thursday. Also, oil marketers on Thursday confirmed the readiness of the Port Harcourt refinery, as it stated that its operations, which could begin in January 2024, would lead to a considerable drop in the prices of refined petroleum products. Meanwhile, at least 3.06 trillion naira has been spent to import pharmaceutical products into Nigeria within the last 6 years. This is according to a report by the Raw Materials Research and Development Council, a federal government agency responsible for industrial raw materials growth, promotion and utilization. Members of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria have said that if nothing is done to stem the tide of over-reliance on imported pharmaceuticals, the country may be headed for a public health crisis. According to the report, Nigeria spent the sum of 126.1 billion naira on pharmaceutical imports in 2016. In 2017, the figure reduced marginally to 118.9 billion naira, while 2018 saw an increase of 185.5 billion naira. Within the next 4 years, the figure would increase exponentially, and in 2020, due to the COVID-19 crisis, Nigeria spent 1 trillion naira to import pharmaceuticals. Quite concerning though. We'll go on a short break. When we return, it would be Business 360 continuing, looking at economic data all around the world and the markets. Don't go anywhere.
Spacecraft tens of billions of miles away rely on this network of satellite dishes to communicate with Earth. But this system is in trouble. The Deep Space Network is operating at capacity and can't keep up with increasing demand. which experts say could lead to loss of important scientific data, like information about the sun's magnetic field, if nothing is done.
The thought of not having that constant connection to our astronauts, to these key science missions, is a challenging and a concerning topic.
Here's how NASA's infrastructure got to this critical stage and what it'll take to fix it. The Deep Space Network, or DSN, uses radio frequencies to send and receive data, like this image of the Southern Ring Nebula from the James Webb Telescope, or the sounds of dense plasma, captured by the Voyager spacecraft as it studies interstellar space. The DSN also commands, tracks, and monitors the health and safety of spacecraft like Juno, which is studying Jupiter.
What we do in space transfers directly to the Earth. Think about the impact that Apollo had on what we do today. Camera systems, the technology transfer into the industry. There were certain fields that didn't even exist before Apollo, like software engineering.
Because a spacecraft's radio signals are being transmitted from billions of miles away, they're incredibly faint by the time they reach Earth. That's why the DSN uses these giant parabolic dish antennas and ultra-sensitive receivers. There's a total of 14 antennas at 3 complexes around the world, so spacecraft can reach the network no matter where they are.
Each complex has one 70-meter, which is really, really large. It's like most of a football field, and then a series of 34-meter antennas.
When data leaves a spacecraft, it travels back to an antenna where it's decoded by the local facility, then sent here to the Space Flight Operations Facility in Pasadena, California, where it's routed to the appropriate Mission Control Center. But strain on the DSN has been growing for years. According to a July Inspector General report, demand is exceeding supply by as much as 40% at times, and studies show...
Welcome back. It is Business 360 and my name is Blyden Kim. Now to global economy, beginning with China. The Chinese economy appears to be on the move again. Significant growth is evident in the services sector and manufacturing, despite some companies still impacted by the after effects of COVID. The services sector results from the latest sales manager survey, and the results are positive. The market growth index is at about 25-month high. The sales growth index also up at an 8-month high. But more importantly, the index registered a very high reading of 54.7, indicating rapid month-on-month expansion. A recovery in confidence is also evident from the significant growth in November in job recruitment, and with the index now at a 26-month high. In summary, the Chinese economy has some way to go before its growth starts to resemble the heady days of 6% plus annual GDP growth. Meanwhile, let's move to the chart indicating China's services and staffing level index for November and see what the growth is like. The charts. While anticipating the outings of this chart, the directions have shown a line in the middle, a 50 index level. And from last year, over a year plus, it's been on the negative from August 2022. It was on the downward path below this line level. The line level indicates a growth positive level. Well, we've seen by February, between February and March, there was an upward trend in terms of China's services and staffing levels index. But this is the first time for 2 consecutive months we're seeing massive growth regarding China's growth as it accelerates in November to close to 52, above 52 point mark to 54 point mark, indicating the growth in the services sector in China. And on the other hand, a growth in staff level. Now to Japan. Japan's inflation rate is at highest level in 3 months. The annual inflation rate in Japan rose to 3.3% in October 2022, from 3% in the prior month, pointing to the highest reading since July. Core inflation rate edged up to 2.9% from September's 13-month low of 2.8%, coming slightly below consensus of 3% while staying outside the Bank of Japan's 2% target for the 19th month. The annual inflation rate has grown, and we've seen the different outings and the highest prints since July. Well, let's move to the chart and see what the prices are as prices accelerated for furniture and household utensils, and in September, culture and recreation and miscellaneous were leading the pack regarding the acceleration. Now to the charts. Looking at the charts. As of January 2023, inflation in Japan stood at 4.3%, that high, but it began to slow down to 3.5% by April 2023 and dropped to 3.3% by July, and then a further slowdown in the last 2 months before increasing back to 3.3%, indicating increase in the price of commodities. And on the other hand, looking at the contrasting fortunes that's happened in Japan, higher increase in the price of commodities, but still marginal in Japan. Let's look at for the talking point now to Malaysia. Malaysia's inflation rate hits 19-month low. The annual inflation rate in Malaysia unexpectedly came in at 1.8% in October 2023 compared with market forecast and September's print of 1.9%. It was the lowest reading since March 2021, with food pricing rising, the least in nearly 2 years, 3.6% against 3.9% in September. Costs also eased for alcoholic beverages and tobacco, furnishing, household maintenance, and miscellaneous goods and services. Meanwhile, simultaneously, prices continued to fall for communication and were flat for clothing and transports. In contrast, inflation was unchanged for housing at 1.6%, while acceleration took place for health, recreation and culture, education, and restaurants. Core consumer prices, excluding volatile items of fresh food and administered costs, increased 2.5% year-on-year after a 2.4% gain previously. On a monthly basis, consumer prices edged up 0.1%, the same pace as in September. Now to the charts indicating Malaysia's inflation rates. The charts this morning. Inflation in Malaysia has been on a downward trend. As of January 2023, inflation stood at 3.7%, began to improve, a slowdown in the cost of commodities to 3.3% in April and 2% in July, and currently 1.8%, a massive slowdown in 1 year, indicating the strength of the currency in Malaysia and reduction in the price of commodities in Malaysia. Still around Asia, Turkey. Turkey's central bank has raised its main interest rate to 40% as part of a concerted campaign to tackle soaring inflation in the country. The rise from the previous rate of 35% was much greater than expected. But Turkey's central bank suggested rates were approaching the level required to start lowering inflation. Inflation, which measures the rate of price rises, hit 61.36% in October, quite high, and is forecast to rise further and peak in May next year at around 70 to 75%. While central banks globally have raised interest rates in an attempt to slow rising prices, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had resisted economic orthodoxy previously, arguing that higher rates would cause prices to rise in Turkey. And now to commodity market, let's look at the price of oil, as crude oil is pressured by OPEC-related uncertainties. WTI crude futures traded above $76 per barrel today, after forcing heightened volatility in recent sessions, but remain under pressure as a dispute among OPEC Plus members over output quotas clouded the supply outlook. Oil prices tumbled nearly 5% on Wednesday, before paring much of the losses after OPEC Plus rescheduled its policy meeting to the end of the month, as disputes arose over output quotas for African members, including Angola and Nigeria. Before the delay, analysts were suggesting that a group could extend or even deepen supply cuts to support the market. Signs of robust supplies, particularly from non-OPEC countries, have also been weighing on crude prices. In the US, government data showed that crude inventories jumped by about 8.7 million barrels last week, way above forecast for a 1.16 million barrels increase. Now let's move to the market and see what the prices are for the energy market first, and afterwards the metals, agricultural commodities too. The market. In the market, crude oil price, US crude, the West Texas Intermediate crude, The price level is $76 per barrel, upward by 0.39 points, 0.51% appreciation. For Brent, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, the current price is $81 per barrel, dropping just slightly, a negative 0.1% this morning. Natural gas, gasoline, heating oil, a little here, a little there, and no significant difference for coal. Now to the metals. The metal market indicates a price of gold at $1,993 per ounce, upward by 1.37 points, a 0.07% appreciation. Silver price is downward, and the current price for silver is $23 per ounce, slight decline this morning of a negative 0.08%. Copper price, a little here, a little there. Steel price downward by 13 points. Iron ore, no significant difference in the market. Agricultural commodities. The price of soybeans. A soybeans price is at $1,356 per bushel, slightly downward by 0.75 points, a negative 0.06% decline. Wheat price also dropping this morning by 2.26 points. Our current price for wheat $555 per bushel at a negative 0.4% decline. Lumber gaining 6 points, palm oil dropping 50 points, and the price for palm oil is 3,901 Malaysian ringgit per ton in the market. Let's talk about the foreign exchange market now and the indications of this market. Nigeria's currency, the naira, slumped to 956 naira against the US dollar on Thursday at the foreign exchange market. Indications have it from the official data from FMDQ. They disclosed that the naira depreciated by 111 naira 80 kobo on Thursday compared to the exchange rate on Wednesday, which exchanged at 830 naira 97 kobo per dollar. This is the third time the country's currency is depreciating on the official FX market since last week. Similarly, at the paro market, naira's exchanged at 1,170 naira per dollar on Thursday from 1,135 naira per dollar on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the development comes despite the country's forex turnover increasing by 61.86% to $198 or $198.21 million rather on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Olayemi Cardoso, plans to unveil the Apex Bank's Economic Outlook and Monetary Policy Committee direction today at the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria's 50th anniversary event. Let's move to the market and see what the prices are for Nigeria's currency, the naira against the US dollar, and afterwards we'll look at the paro market, the US dollar against the naira. The market this morning gives indications of these values: 803 naira on the current front of the international exchange window to the dollar, and the euro against the naira at 876 naira. Well, let's look at the paro market, what the prices are in the paro market and the exchange level that's taking place in the paro market, the black market. While looking forward to the black market, current indication shows that buying rates, dollar to naira stands at 1,158 naira and selling rate 1,144 naira. The pounds to naira stands at 1,443 naira at the buying rate and selling rate 1,420 naira. Meanwhile, the euros against the naira, the price level is at 1,250 naira at the buying rates. Let's quickly look at the cryptocurrency market as well as what the numbers would be for the euros against the US dollar. First, the crypto. The current price for the cryptocurrency market is at $37,493 US dollar for one Bitcoin. A 241 point gain, a 0.64% gain, while Ether's price is at $2,080 US dollar for one Ether, gaining 12.12 points. Market is moving quite fast, a 0.6% increase. The price of Binance also at $234.6 US dollar, downward by 3 points, negative 1.26%. Let's look at the euro against the US dollar market and what the price index is for these majors. The euro against the US dollar, no significant change in the market, 1.09 point mark for the euro against the US dollar. Market has been at a ranging market, and the pounds against the US dollar still at the 1.25 point mark we saw yesterday, and not much significant difference. Here we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business 360. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Blyden Kim, and thank you for watching.